everyone. Hello to Gina from Wilmington, Delaware, and from Toland, Connecticut, and Silver Springs, Maryland. Thank you for joining us, everyone. As you join us, if you please, as everyone else has been doing, put your name and where you're joining us from the chat. We'll be getting ready to get started in just a few moments. We've got people still joining. All right, we've got close to 400 people joining us. We'll give it about 30 more seconds and then we're going to get.
We'll shut up the music as soon as Kimberly gets going with her mix.
Well, that's what we say. Thank you again for all of you who have just joined us. I almost didn't want to stop jamming here. The music is feeling so good. And I think right now we all need to feel good. And that music really did the trick for me. I'm ready to get this call started. So my name is Kimberly. I am joining you from the coastal area of Virginia. And I am so glad to be joining you all tonight for our new member orientation and campaign launch call, When Lies Make Law. On your screen, you see a quote from, I'm going to whisper the name Alexander Hamilton because I have a 9-year-old who loves the musical. So, and the quote says, the first duty of society is justice. We are seeing how America's courts are really being controlled by disinformation. And that's a scary thought and exactly the opposite of what our forefathers intended for us. But guess what? We, the Truth Brigade, you, us, we're all on the job and we're going to fight back against the disinformation. So again, welcome to you and thank you for joining us. We'll go to the next slide.
Kimberly, I think sorry to interrupt, but I'm seeing in the chat that a lot of people are seeing black boxes on the screen.
Black boxes.
Yes, and the toolbar.
I have seen that problem before.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is.
The toolbar is gone. That's good. Yeah. And any black boxes, or do we get those to go away too? Yay! Okay. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm a little concerned about getting rid of all unsharing because sometimes we lose sound when we do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've seen that problem happen years ago, actually. I haven't seen it in a while. But we're certainly hoping that it is not too disruptive to you. It looks like the Zoom gremlins are active and on the job. But we, I guess, are going to press ahead. And if for some reason the black boxes become too disruptive to you, if you'd please let us know in the chat and we'll see what we can do. And we'll just make our apologies for technology being what it is.
Yeah, let's let Kimberly finish the intro. And it seems like a lot of people are having trouble with this. And so then we'll stop sharing and reshare and cross fingers that I do a better job next time.
All right.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so again, welcome to everyone. Welcome to the welcome to Disinformation Disrupting with the Indivisible Truth Brigade. We are so proud of the work that this brigade is doing. We have over, as you see on the screen, 600 million online impressions where we are fighting back against dis and misinformation. In addition to that, our Truth Brigaders are having not just online conversations and interactions, they're interacting with people in real time, and they have logged more than 2,000 offline conversations in 2024 alone. We have this number is inaccurate. The screen says 11,000 members, but I think we're actually up to a couple thousand more than that. So I think we're at 13,000 or so. And we are just so excited about the disinfo campaigns that we have been engaging on. And today, when lies make laws, it's kind of a scary thing. Taxpayers pay for that propaganda. And we're also fighting back against Doge deceit. We know the math ain't mathin', as the kids say. And so let's get started and move forward with the rest of the agenda for tonight. All right. So I hope you feel welcome and cozy joining us tonight. And I'm going to be transparent. I am having some technology issues here, so I'm taking it. I hope that you can't tell too much. We want to talk about the welcome, housekeeping, and a check-in poll that we're going to be doing today. We want to let you know what we're seeing this week out there in the disinformation world. We want to give our new members an orientation about Truth Brigade and all of the wonderful, exciting work that is happening. We will be launching the campaign that I've mentioned, When Lies Make Laws, and we'll talk about the exciting work that our AMP teams have been doing and opportunities for you to join in on that very specialized, exciting work. And so let's go, and an action poll at the end. So we'll go on and get next slide, please. So, housekeeping. We are recording this call, and we will email the recording and all of the materials at the end of the call. We always get lots of calls, lots of requests throughout the entire call asking if we're going to email information. So yes, we're recording, and we will be sending the materials out. I just want to make sure. Did we start yes, the recording is started. We're going to ask you to use the Q&A function for your questions. The chat gets kind of busy, and it's a lot easier for us to pay attention to those questions if they are all in one place in the Q&A function. Let's use the chat for chatting and use the Q&A function for questions. This is a working call for our volunteers and not journalists. Everything that you hear on this call, if you are a journalist, is off the record, and we just want to let you know that this may not be the space for you if you are not one of our working volunteers. Of course, let's pay attention, as always, to the golden rule in the chat. Be kind, be open. That's why we're here, and ignore the technology gremlins as they arise. Let's say hi to Juliana and Marla, who are working in the chat to answer your questions, and the whole team here that you'll be meeting as they introduce themselves throughout the call. And as always, expect the unexpected. And we're going to launch a quick poll right now. So if you would answer the quick poll on your screen right now. All right.
I'm gonna stop sharing while people answer the poll.
Okay.
So I can fix this challenge.
There we go. Thank you. That's a great idea. All right, thank you so much for all of the answers coming in. The questions were, how did you hear about this call? For our longstanding brigaders, there's a question. And we're asking about the actions that you've taken on your disinformation or disinfo countering journey. We answers are still coming in, so we're going to give it about another minute or so.
Says the black box moved to the middle.
I see.
My God, I have no idea because this is shared in a completely different way.
Yeah, and I've seen this happen. And I remember researching it years ago, and
Me too.
It's some kind of Zoom glitch or something.
Well, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to open this up on yet another screen. I keep opening it up on different screens. We shall see.
All right.
Worse, isn't that a drag?
Yeah. We want to end the poll or let it keep going? And I don't think I can review the answers while you're doing that.
Oh, I think the black box was the poll. Sorry, everybody. We haven't actually had this happen before in the Truth Brigade. We've been doing this for 5 years.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna.
Well, the box is gone because I'm not sharing anymore, right?
Okay, y'all, we're sorry. We work so hard, and Jody worked so hard to have this call be as flawless and a wonderful end user experience for you as we possibly can. And so we just want to give you our heartfelt apologies for the technology glitches that we're experiencing. Yeah. Thanks for the love in the chat and your patience.
Thank you.
And I'm going to kick it over to Jody now. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks. And I think we're going to, well, we shall see. Now I'm going to try sharing my screen one more time. And goodness gracious, it's not even giving me the option.
It's not giving you the option to share screen? Yep, I see your screen.
Can everybody see this now?
Yes, we're cooking with butter, and I only see a little square. It just went away.
Can you all hear?
Hi, good afternoon and evening, everyone. I am Kelsey Suter, and I am here to talk to you about what we are seeing this week in our monitoring of the crazy parts of the internet. So the first thing is going to be around immigration. I feel like we are talking about immigration at this point almost every time I do one of these, but that's because we continue to see a whole lot of lies and disinformation here. So the White House is dealing with a whole bunch of different court cases dealing with their deportations and with immigrants' due process rights, meaning, the set of laws that the government has to follow in terms of what kind of legal protections people have before they get deported. In defense of these deportations, Trump and his allies have said that immigrants who come to the U.S., quote, illegally, can be held to a different standard for due process, that they don't have all the same legal rights and protections as citizens do. This is just outright false. The U.S. Constitution, legal experts, many, many decades of court decisions have all been very clear that immigrants in the U.S., regardless of how they got into the U.S., have due process rights. There are no exceptions to due process rights for immigrants, so this is a very concerning lie coming out of the administration. A second thing we've been seeing more recently is that Florida is on track to become the second state to ban tap water fluoridation, putting fluoride into tap water. This is a response to just, again, blatantly false claims about fluoride, meant to portray it as unnecessary or harmful. Fluoride is a mineral. It is naturally found in water and soil and some foods. Research shows that drinking water with fluoride in it at the recommended levels is very safe, and it has major public health benefits. It prevents cavities and tooth decay, but it has come under attack from a lot of these disinformers looking to portray it as something nefarious when it is not. And finally, we are recently seeing anti-climate propagandists who are trying to politicize a big power outage that you might have heard of recently that was hitting Spain and Portugal and parts of France. So they are saying that renewable energy is actually the reason for these blackouts, saying it's supposedly unreliable, that it's failed as a way to try to get people to distrust clean and renewable energy. Of course, this is not true. The causes of those power outages are still being investigated, but it's probably a multifaceted problem that implicates the whole energy grid. So these are some of the most egregious lies we have been seeing within the past week. And of course, we're going to talk more about this and some other things coming up next.
Thank you very much, Kelsey. I'm Adrienne Goliassi, and now that we've heard a bit about what's happening out there in the world of disinformation, let's take a look at some of our strategies to counter that disinformation and how we can build towards a more civil society. You've heard the phrase, know your enemy. Well, that's particularly true in the world of disinformation fighting. When we understand what disinformation is and how it's used and how to recognize it, we're better able to resist it and develop effective counter measures, counter strategies. Fundamentally, I'm not sure if I'm on the right slide. Yeah, okay, so fundamentally would be authoritarians throughout history have relied on spreading division and fear, false information, fears. They continuously spread lies that divide and scare us into thinking that their leadership is strong, into thinking that they provide the answers. Disinformation is often used as a blanket category. But there are important distinctions. So disinformation, information that is false and deliberately shared to grab personal profit, political power, political gain, but only about 15% of the bad information is spread deliberately. Misinformation, on the other hand, is information that, though it may be false, is not spread deliberately for personal profit or political power. This is the Truth Brigade's primary focus. In other words, misinformation. Malinformation is information that's real, but the data is distorted to grab personal profit or political power. Look at White House websites, for example. In other words, they take a kernel of truth and then create wider falsehoods out of that. Okay, next slide. So how do we know it's a lie? If there's a source mismatch, like the headline doesn't match the content of the article, there's no credible sources listed in the article, or there's no variety of sources. In other words, you see the same source quoted over and over again. Outrage, baby. The sky is falling and the blame is prominent. There's all caps, scary images, scary language. Also, you have to ask who benefits. Will the entity sharing the information profit in some way? Also, AI glitches and sloganeering. If there's obvious kind of AI disconnects and more slogans than there are real content, that's another tip that there's something amiss. All right, disinformation is a bully. It's targeted to vulnerable groups to make people feel isolated, and powerless. Disinformation is not an equal opportunity provider. It is evil. It's particularly and deliberately harmful to marginalized communities like people of color and the LGBTQ+ community. And bad actors spread lies to vulnerable groups to make those people feel isolated and to undermine trust in our institutions and in each other. And like bullies that the disinformers are, they spread lies about the vulnerable people. So it's targeted to vulnerable groups, to make them feel isolated and powerless, and to undermine trust, also to dehumanize people. Scapegoating comes to mind, and to divert the blame for societal problems, so that people are focusing solely on one group, and instead of, working toward a solution. All right, next slide. Okay, the age of the disinformation age. Heads up, this is not the good news section of the orientation. We have to address a little bit about what's happening in the moment first. It can be helpful, however, to state the concerns in a safe space like we have here. So if you'd like to express yourselves and what kind of lies that you are seeing out there that you find most concerning, please let us know. Please do so in the chat, especially lies that you see that are circulating within your community, that are perhaps impacting those marginalized communities that I just mentioned, and others as well. So feel free to pop that into the chat. What's worse for you and your loved ones, your colleagues, your friends, things like that. Certainly I see comments about immigrants, vaccines, and autism. I'm hearing a lot about that as well. The ICE invasions. It's flying by. It's obviously is so much out there to be concerned with. The measles outbreak, and the trans rights. It continues to be a top issue. Many millions of dollars was spent on during the campaign season that negatively affected trans folks. So there's definitely a lot going on out there. And here's where we are. And yes, it does seem like it's urgent and it's disturbing across the country. And yet we're educating ourselves to resist. At the same time, platforms are deregulated, and false claims justify cruel, illegal actions. We all know that so often these actions are in direct conflict with the Constitution. It costs thousands of people their livelihoods and even their lives. The government websites are being removed. Our factual information is being replaced with incorrect information. 8,000 pages are, removed from the whitehouse.gov website. Mainstream media is normalizing these lies, not helpful at all. And disinformation strategically deployed to consolidate authoritarian power across all of society. So, yes, that's the dire news, the dire truth. But again, that's why we're here. All right. So the disinformation playbook. So what do we do about this? Finally, this is good news in a way. The disinformers don't care about the issues. They don't really care about immigration. They don't really care about climate change, not crime. The truth is, when people are seeking unearned power and profit, issues are simply a tool to get attention. So don't waste your energy feeling you have to play whack-a-mole with every single new issue. Don't waste your energy calling out the constant right-wing hypocrisy. And we know what they're up to. No matter what they throw at us, we have consistent, effective response, and we can let go of some of the overwhelm. I think it's very, very important to take that in and just know that not only is it not constructive to try to combat every single narrative that's out there, but it's not healthy as well. And we can do our work in other ways more effectively. And with that, I think I hand it over to Jody. Is that right?
Yes, and thank you, Adrian. And excuse me. In addition to our tech problems, I have some vocal problems too. So when it rains, it pours. I just have a little hoarseness, so apologies for that. But now that Adrian has made us all super scared and wanting to stay up all night, and everybody's been putting in the chat all the things that we're also aware of, let's sort of take a look at what's on the flip side, because there is room for hope. We can counter disinformation. There are things that work. So I want to start this section by saying we're moving, it's actually the 5th month, but it feels like the 6th month. We're moving into the 6 months of government sanctioned disinformation. That slide that had all of the horrible things that are happening, they're all very real, but you're all here. We've got 470 people here. So now let's do a little flip. Instead of writing about the stuff that's making you upset, why are you here? What's inspiring you to keep on resisting? Why are you doing it? It's so important for us to find our why. And that matters whatever we're doing to resist. Seeing others resist, it's contagious. No kidding. Do you see all the people from all over the country here? Protect people from being harmed. Love of liberty and democracy. It's to do. How can we not? Oh my God, I love you. I wish I could have you all here with me. That would be the best. I love my kids and I care about others' kids. I love our country. You know, here's a little secret. Everything you're saying in the chat, most people feel the same way. And that's really important to keep in mind when you're fighting disinformation, because there are a lot of people out there who are misinformed and disinformed, but fundamentally, we all share these positive common values. So I want to protect my kids and my grandkids. Yeah, no kings. The memory of your brother. Oh, you are just all phenomenal. Keep those coming. I'm going to move forward with what we do, but do continue to write in the chat. So just to give us some context and some grounding, the Indivisible Truth Brigade, if you're new here, it's a grassroots-driven network of persuasive communication. And that's really what we're all about, is communicating in a way that is evidence-based to persuade people. We talk, we write, we post. Said, heck, we'll even dance. And we do that within an evidence-based framework that shifts mindsets, including our own, because all of us are impacted by disinformation and misinformation and anger and division. And all of us need to do a little thinking. So here's, if we need to dance for you, we're dancing. Hope that helps you feel a little bit better. So here's some more things about disinformation and what works. Humans, all humans, are much less likely to share disinformation when we feel seen and respected. And again, all humans, whatever side of the political, I wouldn't call it a fence. I'm thinking of what's like a canyon. Whatever side you're on, we all need to feel seen and respected. We're much less likely to share disinformation when we engage what's sometimes called the explorer brain. That's as opposed to the caveman brain in our amygdala. So basically, the caveman brain is where our emotions live. It's where the fear lives. It's where our emotional responses live, and other really interesting various things that all have to, and messaging and things like that. We don't want to engage that brain. We don't engage the reactionary brain. We want to engage the thinking brain. When we do that, we're all less likely to share disinformation, and we're also less likely to share when we trust the messenger. And we're also, very important, we need to have our attention captured. Not easy. I hope all of you get this little reference. I think it's from Up. I know if you're like me, my attention is always grabbed, but that's, completely true with disinformation as well. The bad actors are trying to capture the top, actually the backsides of our brains. So all of the work we do, all of our communications, whether they're short or long, are structured in basically the same way. It's basically just a 3-part structure, which we call the Indivisible Truth Sandwich. And that's based in part on George Lakoff's work. But George Lakoff was working for journalists, and his sandwich was about truth, then story, then truth. Our Indivisible Truth Sandwich is a little bit different. It's designed to do the kinds of things that I've been talking about already. So all of our messages start with what we call discover, which is where we share truthful common ground and shared values. Then we disrupt, which is cause a pause. And then we dream, we inspire one another. Now we'll be saying this sandwich again and again throughout the rest of the call, but that's essentially the framework so that you know what we do. We communicate, and this is the framework we use to communicate. So here's a little bit of a deeper dive into why we communicate that way and why relationships need to come first. First thing, a lot of it is just common sense. We all know that we need to be psychologically safe before we can engage in a productive discussion. Doesn't matter who you are. If someone comes up to you on the street and says, no, you're wrong, or have you read this newspaper, or have you seen this article? You're not going to listen. You need to feel safe. You need to feel seen. You need to feel respected. Resentment closes minds and builds division. So what does that mean? A lot of times we can be unaware. A lot of people with best intentions create resentment in other people by jumping in to say, well, if only they knew what we knew, then things would be different. Well, people are people, and everybody has their own reasons for what they believe. And so any conversation needs to, again, that mindset shift. You need to enter that conversation with the attitude of, this is a person, I want to treat them with respect. I'm not going to assume anything, but I'm going to find out where they are. And then kind of the same principle, argument entrenches opposition, especially if it questions somebody's identity. This may be counterintuitive to some people, the idea that you can't just start spewing facts and let people know, but it just doesn't work. So this quote I love, although it's a little bit, hurts my heart, but that arrogant ideologies are built around a central conviction that we know and they don't, that actually divides us. And that's from a terrific article I'll share afterwards, all about the value of truth. So, okay, you're saying, right? And so we know we got to be friendly and fuzzy and warm and fuzzy and empathetic and all that. But how do we persuade people if we can't tell them the facts? Well, first, our program is designed to be peer-to-peer and within our networks, and then to permeate out, because that cuts through mistrust. Then there's something more specific that's called accuracy inoculation. Accuracy inoculation, again, it's fairly straightforward. It's simply having someone question before they share. So we gently, after we've established a common value, then we gently ask questions that prompt people to think about, well, where did I hear that? And are there other places that I could research? And why did that person say that? Are they interested in just themselves, or are they interested in the world or each other, like so many of you? And then the most effective is the combination of the two. And that was a recent study that showed you have like our truth sandwich. If you start with a common value, ask someone to check the source. That's actually a really effective way to disrupt the sharing of disinformation or misinformation. Again, we're talking about the people who are misinformed, not the people who are deliberately spreading lies. And again, our goal is to prompt second thought. And that, again, may be a little counterintuitive. We don't want to be right. It's a long process. None of us came to believe what we believe overnight. And we're not going to persuade anybody to believe something different overnight, especially because in the end, we all persuade ourselves. And then finally, engaging online, as you probably all have heard by now, it feeds the trolls. Don't do it. Don't like, don't comment, don't share. on the nasty stuff, all it does is get more attention to the nasties and make you feel worse. You know, one of the nice things about this approach is that our Truth Brigade members feel good about their work. They're not fighting, right? They're building relationships and doing it successfully. We did test this out a couple of years ago with the Truth Brigade. We used a YouGov study, and we did find that one little online message, 3 sentences, reduced people's who are the most likely to share disinformation. It reduced their sharing by 15%. So that was like, you know, mind blowing. That was really great. And now, quick diversion a little bit, but you may be wondering, do these tactics really work in a conversation? I've talked a bit about online. And I'm wondering if any of you in your own conversations, have you had success? And if you have, please put it in the chat. And meanwhile, I'm going to ask Adrienne, because Adrienne said that she recently had like a lot of success with this structured conversation within her own family. So if, yeah, actually, Jean, I have talked with Trump supporters and it has worked with neighbors, etc. But Adrienne, do you want to pop in and just tell us your story briefly?
Yeah, over the weekend, I went down south to visit with family for the Mother's Day weekend. And whenever I make this trip, I have to kind of prepare myself for being around family members who support the other side. And I was well prepared, although not defensive, open to having whatever conversations arose. And, my sister said, well, what are you working on now? And I mentioned the Truth Brigade. I hesitated a bit on whether I was going to preface it with the Indivisible Truth Brigade. And I went ahead and said the Indivisible Truth Brigade. And I talked a little bit about how we're about finding common ground and the structure of the truth sandwich. This was a little bit different of a way to approach the truth sandwich. Instead of framing a message in the truth sandwich form, I was more sort of describing what we do. And that led her to say, express her appreciation for finding common ground. And then that led her to express that she feels, although she feels fiscally conservative, she's an environmental, I don't know if you would say at the extent of liberal, but I'll say, liberal environmental, and also on social issues. She feels like she's liberal, and therefore she feels like neither party really, she has a place for either party, and she wishes that we had a multi-party system. Boom, that opens up everything for lots of possibilities and conversation. And lo and behold, we were able to have a conversation around topics that we have avoided for many, many years. So it just goes to show that when you feel confident and you are not afraid to kind of explore the topics, then the door opens and there's a brighter path forward.
Thanks, Adrienne. And I've seen some people asking for specifics in the chat. We are launching a campaign today, which has a very specific, actually 4 different truth sandwiches that are very specific. But I do want to leave you with, before we move on, to give you a tip. And that is, it seems so difficult to find common values with anybody. But when you think about something like what people are afraid of, so let's say that there's somebody who is anti-vaccine, right? Anti-vaccination. And they're saying, I just don't want to get my kids vaccinated. I've heard so many terrible things about how dangerous it is. You have a choice. You could say, it's not dangerous. Look at this study or that study. Or you could think about, what do we have in common? Well, I do have something in common with that person. I also care about my kid. I also care about my kid's health. So I can start a conversation by saying, gosh, it sounds like you and I both really care about our kids' health. Can we talk about that a little bit? And crazy, it seems so simple, but it really works. Pick any topic for the most part, unless someone is, if they're way out there, don't waste your time because, keep yourselves healthy. Really important. Protect yourselves. Walk away if it gets ugly. But immigration, if someone's saying, "Oh, those immigrants are going to take my job," well, you can then quickly just flip it and say, "Boy, I'm really concerned about my family's finances too." It sounds like that's a really big concern for you. Is that right? And shoulders come down, they relax a little bit, and they start to have a conversation. So that's how that worked. So now I'm going to kind of jump fairly quickly through the whole system, which is that our advisors, we have external advisors who are in the disinformation swamps. They study what's going on and they identify the most damaging and most sticky. They use a threat assessment tool that we developed together. Essentially, they look for what's broken into the mainstream and is not just fly by night, what's actually harmful and going to be doing damage, because there's a lot of stuff that just, let it go. And then what our demographic, the people who are out there fighting disinformation, what you all feel compelled to get involved with. So that's the threat assessment tool. Then we write messages for you to personalize and share. We share them with you once a month. And with our webinars are always the same time. And then you share your version of the message online in the platform that you're most comfortable. You also engage in productive conversations offline, and we give you materials for that. You can write letters to the editor. And then we all practice non-engagement and amplification strategies. Then we do it all over again, month after month. We communicate with you via email. So we provide updates every Friday. We do have a Facebook page where we post things. It's not really a place you can comment and have discussions in the comments, but it's really kind of a place to find what we're messaging, we're posting, and what calls are coming. Mention the webinar every month. And then we have an ambassador program where we reach out to groups, and any one of you can be an ambassador, report back to your group on disinformation, and we provide cheat sheets for you. So just to do a quick recap on disinformation countering best practices, that is, no clicks or comments on the bad guys. Don't use the language of the disinformers. If you name it, you spread it. And journalists certainly need to learn that too. Got to always be authentic, respond authentically and personally. Don't argue, engage with common values. Don't respond with facts, instead raise questions. All of this is familiar to you. And gently share with persuadable people. You don't want to, as I say, don't want to hit your head against any walls. Now we're going to take a moment and we're going to breathe. So I'll just take a look at the screen. The next thing we're going to have after this breath is the campaign for today. So let's hold it. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. Breathe out. Wow, I hope that helps all of you. I feel like I've been talking a mile a minute. Certainly helps me. This technique of breathing in shorter and out longer is actually really, really useful all over the place. Yoga, calming ourselves down, de-stressing. All right. So now we're going to hear from Kelsey again about specifically what we're fighting this month. I'm sorry, didn't relax you.
Hi, everyone. I am back to talk about what our campaign is going to look like for this week. So as you have already heard, our campaign is called When Lies Make Laws. And we are looking at the way that bad actors and propagandists are exploiting our legal system. I think we are all used to having these bad actors exploiting our media and communications system and our political system. It is one thing to see it extending into our legal system, which we really need to be really robust and is sort of our main check and balance on our other systems. So the reason that bad actors are doing this is because it's another way to give their false claims credibility and attention. So here's how it works. Bad actors are spreading these divisive lies. We're all very familiar with this process. A lot of these lies are targeting marginalized communities and sort of scapegoating them, making them seem like they are some sort of threat. Lawmakers can then use these lies to push forward laws to protect Americans from these non-existent threats. And then whether these laws pass or fail is kind of beside the point. Obviously, these lawmakers want them to pass, but even if they fail, the lawmaking process still brings more headlines and sort of attention, helps them rile up their base. It gives undeserved legitimacy to these lies. And so it's all part of this ugly cycle. At the same time, this lawmaking process is happening. Our tax dollars are also being wasted as the White House has to then defend these dubious executive orders and directives in court. Over 200 lawsuits have been filed in this administration to try to protect our rights from a lot of these laws and orders. So we've got entities like state attorneys generals, the Associated Press, PBS, Labor Union, Harvard are all pushing forward laws in response to these EOs and directives. So this is really important. We want our legal system to work to contest these laws and try to roll them back. But unfortunately, it also has this unintended consequence that every hearing, a lot of these court cases, they also amplify the original lie and they give more airtime and legitimacy to the falsehoods that are sort of being debated in the court. So the lawmakers pushing these laws and these lies know that they're not legal. They know that they're not going to hold up in a contested court decision. That's not the point. This is a sort of national battle against authoritarianism and fascism. These are opportunities for power grabbers to test the strength of our justice system and to use the courts as another stage to their lies. So they are not doing this to try to get legal, clarification around a legitimate legal question they have. They're using this as another way to get attention. So that is what we're going to be focusing on today. This is a reminder of that sandwich structure that Jody went over earlier. Just a reminder, it has those 3 parts. We want to start and end with positive proactive messaging, do our disrupting in the middle. So we start on some sort of shared value statement or common ground. Then we can disrupt the negative, harmful lies, often by triggering critical thinking and asking questions that are going to lead people to a conclusion. And then we want to end with our positive proactive message. Here's what that looks like for this campaign. We are talking about how when lies make laws, conspiracy becomes policy. So this is our big picture message. And we're also going to have a couple different sort of sub-themes, more focused messages on a couple different topics. But this is our sort of core message for the week. We're going to start by talking about the fact that laws should solve real problems. This is a thing I think we can all agree with. We want laws that solve problems like, giving us better healthcare or financial protections. Then we get to our questioning, disrupting. We're asking, why are lawmakers pushing laws based on disproven conspiracy theories? Maybe because they get headlines. Then we go to our proactive message. We're telling people to keep asking who benefits, who's left out when these laws are proposed. If we can get people to think about sort of the why behind these laws, that's sort of our goal here. And then we want to encourage people to demand better and always using that hashtag Truth Brigade. So like I said, this is our core message. We also have focused messages on different topics. So just to go through those here, I already went through the conspiracy becomes policy message. We have one about how kids pay the price that is focused on education and what's happening in schools. We have one focused on families being torn apart through deportation and sort of the legal process there. And then we have one looking more specifically at these different executive orders and the lawsuits around them that are challenging them. So these are all messages that you might decide to use, this week when you post, or you can sort of save them up and use them over the next couple of weeks as you feel like you need to, or any of these things becomes really relevant for you. So those are our messages this week. I am going to pass it off to, I think, Adrienne or Jody to talk about next steps. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here.
And thank you, Kelsey.
Hi, everyone. I am back to talk about what our campaign is going to look.
Kelsey's 8.5 months pregnant. You can't quite tell that, right? She's amazing. So just let everybody know, these campaign messages always have thorough explainers. So if there's anything that is confusing, you will be able to get access to these explainers. They have resources. A lot of people like to put links to factual content once they've established the open minds. So there's a lot of places to get links. There's a longer description of what the issue is. There's links to these beautiful graphics. You can't quite see them, I think, as well on this screen, but they're just gorgeous. What else? Oh, there's also different messages for different platforms. And so, yeah, they're just great. So you all have message explainers and a conversation guide. So yay. And then we also have a social media sharing platform, which is really cool. You can pick up your phone to look. I'm not going to hang on this screen real long, but it has all of our Truth Brigade messaging, not just this campaign, but other campaigns as well. One click and you can post. All right. So some of you may be saying, all right, that's all well and good, but I still don't get, what do you want me to do? I don't quite get it. So here's what we want you to do. First thing, after you hang up, after you relax a bit, read the campaign explainer, or when you get it, you'll get it like tomorrow, the next day. Then you choose the platform that you want to start countering disinformation. Could be conversation, could be anywhere. Then you follow the instructions and post a message, or follow the instructions and write a letter, etc. And then you share it, and then you amplify others. And that's really basically the whole thing. Or not. If you're brand new and this all sounds a little daunting, that's fine. Make sure you register for the Truth Brigade and then read our stuff, attend our our webinars, and eventually you'll find that you want to do more. So now I'm going to hand it over to Adrian, who's going to quickly talk about something we haven't even mentioned yet, which is an amazing program called our AMP Team program. If you are on an AMP team, let us know in the chat. And Adrian, take it away. Let's get everybody excited about this. Is really an exciting project.
Thanks, Jody. Yeah, the AMP Teams is a pilot project of the Truth Brigade that was launched this year. And so the AMP teams have been working for a few weeks. Some teams are still getting organized, while others, like Team Social Media and Team Reddit, have already started posting. And we want to share a big shout out to all the AMP team guides who have been working so creatively and thoughtfully about getting their teams going. So thank you very much, AMP team guides. You may be wondering what the heck is this amplification idea? Is it really an idea that makes a difference? Well, it's still in the early stages, and but we just want to share the great news from Team Reddit, and this is it's almost hard to wrap your brain around it, and also I hesitate to kind of report it because it's such a moving number. But Team
You guys
Team
want to
Reddit,
take a guess? How many do you think impressions they got?
yeah, take a guess at how many, let's see, impressions have they gotten off of a couple of subreddit posts that they've made.
Yeah.
You can write it in the
guesses.
chat.
Yeah, so they posted 3 posts over the last several weeks. Not a lot of people. All right, 5 figures, 1,000. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Da 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 da.
The first post got over 37,000 views. The second post got 1,319 upvotes and 476,000 views. Amazing. This is one little team, guys. Look what you can do if you join an AMP team. I mean, it's amazing. And then the third team, oh, I'm sorry. The 1,319 was for number 3, but the 476,000 is correct. 1 million views. That was just posted yesterday. An upvote is when you just click on it and they say you like it. So friends, these, do think about joining an AMP team. Adrian, I'm going to take us back to the system, which I think I'll go ahead and talk us through real quickly. That's all Reddit. Yeah, that's just Reddit. Meantime, we've got social media, conversations and long form writing. What do you do to get involved? You can be a guide or you can be an amplifier. We really need some more guides. What to do, what makes a guide right for you? If you know your platform well, if you like writing, and if you love turning ideas into action, you're a perfect person to be a guide. That means you do the first writing and then you share it with everybody else and they amplify it. And if you're just learning your platform and just eager to get your messages out, then it makes sense to sign up as an amplifier. You have your options as to which to sign up for on the form itself. And let's go. Sign up in the chat, everybody. Adrian, I'm going to hand it over to you for a couple more opportunities. I don't mind looking at this screen again.
All right. Okay, so we're in. Yeah, where do we start? Groups. Sign up a team member to be your Truth Brigade ambassador. And that would be a person who would receive a monthly cheat sheet to share with your group. In other words, if you are a member of a local Indivisible group and you love the Truth Brigade work, then sign up to become an ambassador. That would be a liaison between the Truth Brigade and your local Indivisible group. Again, AMP teams, Jody talked through it. I talked a little bit about it. Sign up to be an AMP team guide, which is somebody who has a little bit more expertise in the platform, or an amplifier, the worker bees, and individuals. If you haven't done so already, sign up to join the Truth Brigade. I know that may sound like, well, I'm on this call, so certainly I'm a member of the Truth Brigade. However, you may not be. And so I had popped the link to join the Truth Brigade in the chat. This will ensure that you receive the weekly emails and updates and things like that with further instructions and resources and all the good stuff. So please do click on that.
Thank you so much. And all of this information you're going to get in the follow-up. But before you leave, we've got a poll for you because we want to get you committed to how you're going to fight disinformation with us. We know as organizers that if you say you're going to do something and you click a click, it'll make you more likely to do it, which makes all of us more likely to change the world. So we're all interested in having everybody fill out this form with much appreciation, and also much appreciation to all of you for your patience with the challenges we had at the beginning of the call. You've all been great. Almost all of you have stayed on the entire time, which just warms our hearts. You've written some really insightful things in the chat. So thanks, everybody. I am going to be staying on after the call to answer questions. So if you would like to stay on, and Adrian's going to be helping me see what questions you all put into the Q&A, which I haven't looked at yet. But thank you so much. It looks like 44% of you have participated, almost 50. We're just at the end of our hour, and when you finish this, you're going to be done. But again, much appreciation to our ambassadors, our mentors, our AMP teams, our AMP team guides, and then all the people who have been helping out on this call. Behind the scenes, we have Marla and Juliana, who you've seen in the chat a lot. Adrian, Kimberly had to leave us early. She had another commitment, but she certainly kicked us off calmly during a little bit of a tricky beginning. So yeah, everybody, thank y'all. 72% of you filled it out. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave this on while I clicked onto the next screen, which is basically a thank you. Our next webinar is in June. It's a big truths call, not an orientation call, which is it's going to be centered on disinformation and pride and either money or health. Those are what we're thinking about right now. And then a little reminder, again, if you don't know what to do, just pop a date on your calendar once a week and use it to research or to write. So thank you all so much. And anybody who wants to leave, you are free to go with our gratitude. And anybody who wants to stay, of course, you're welcome to stay. Wow, we've got 93% of you. Oh my God, 98% of you have participated. 100%. I've never seen that before. Wow. You guys rock. Good night, everybody. Gonna close the poll. And I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. There we are. And I think we've got the Q&A. Did people upvote?
Yep.
So Adrian and Kimberly, are you still here? Not sure. Anyway, if anybody who's still on the back end wants to help,
I'm here.
Ask or answer some questions.
You know, there was one question, if you don't mind, that I wanted to, that I clicked that I would answer live. I don't know whether Vicki Feldman is still here, but Vicki asks, I would like to be a little clearer on how long the Truth Brigade has existed. I thought it was a new part of Indivisible, so I'd be happy to answer that. The Truth Brigade has been around since August of 2020. And the Truth Brigade is actually under the Indivisible Civics or the civics wing, the education wing of Indivisible. So it is not a new project, although there certainly has been a surge in new interest and membership since the beginning of the year. So I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, the people who are with us now, who have been here from the beginning, they rock. You know, we really are a community. Adrian started with us at the beginning. Kelsey was here at the beginning, and so many volunteers. And it's been like a super successful program. It's consistently grown since it started way back when, Trump 1.0 lies. I guess I'm not supposed to say that as an educational program. But anyway, we love Truth Brigaders, and that means you. If you're new, I hope that soon you become someone who can teach others. Some more questions?
Yeah, well, we have a question from Teresa. It says, newbie here. I only use Blue Sky as my social media, and Quora, a question and answer site that doesn't get a great deal of traffic. Is there any point in sharing the truth on an echo chamber like Blue Sky? I can't tell you how often I hear this question. So thoughts on that? What's the point of sharing our messages on Blue Sky when it's people feel like it's a bit of an echo chamber?
Oh, were you going to answer that, Adrian?
Oh, I mean, I suppose I could. I could. One thing to keep in mind about the perception of something being an echo chamber is it's important to keep in mind that you never truly know who is seeing your post. It's not a closed system, Blue Sky. In other words, it's an open platform. Just because you only have X number of followers or something like that, that does not mean that your post is not being presented to other people, nor does it mean that other people aren't capturing the information in another way and sharing it somewhere else, or even not somewhere else on the platform. It's very, very difficult to measure true engagement, true amplification. So don't let things like, oh, a small number of followers or a very, sort of like homogenous seeming group dissuade you from, putting out the messages on Blue Sky and other platforms as well. So I hope that answered the question.
A question here, I think is a really good question. How about what these days, what exactly would you consider, and how do we figure out what a credible source is?
That is a great question. And it's so funny because, we used to say things like, well, go to the government websites. And, we can't do that anymore. So in our campaign explainers now, we always have a list of credible sources, if that's helpful. So you'll be able to see just generally what we consider credible. But basically, it's really, in a way, it's not that hard because you can pretty much tell when something is biased. You just have to kind of read through. If it's a magazine and every article is, pushing a particular point of view, then, bias is pretty easy to see. And objectivity is pretty easy to see, I think. But the scary thing is when people start quoting like scientific articles, except that they're not really science. That goes back to that malinformation we were talking about before. There are also a lot of people online. This is a really difficult thing where a lot of people online start their own newsletters, and they're structured to look like newspapers, but they're not. And so again, though, it really comes back to the basics, which is what are they? Does every single article seem to promote the same point of view? That's a good way to figure it out. Does it back up what it's saying with other sources? So another thing, if something is not reliable, you can pretty much tell because it just says what it says without providing any attributions. And if things are attributed and they're attributed to other places that are things you've heard of, then that's a really good way to judge too. Also, universities still, when we've heard this question before, a lot of people talk about university sites. And then there's also like anti-sites that I've seen in the chat where people have like the anti-White House site where it provides information. I don't remember the names of all of them. But basically, you don't have to dig that deep. You can just, some of it's common sense, but some of it is really difficult. So I think is anybody else have any other tips besides attribution of sources, obvious bias, and then good writing? Actually, that's another thing as I think about it. The people who are writing for reputable places tend to be, well trained in writing well. They make cogent arguments, and don't trick you with the headlines. No disconnect from the headlines to the article. Yeah, and the fact checker sites are always good. Well, not always, but PolitiFact and factcheck.org and Snopes. We like all of those.
I have another question in the Q&A section about the 600 million impressions. And the question was along the lines of exactly what is an impression? And the other part of the question was, how do we know that that is moving the needle?
I just noticed that you could type answers to these questions, which is great. I'm going to start typing answers. So impressions is a really kind of a gray area thing. And it refers mostly when in the 600 million that you saw earlier, that had to do when Truth Brigade was a bit younger when we were on Twitter, because Twitter before Musk was, you could easily measure what's called impressions. They were transparent. And now with Musk, you can't measure anything. So we can no longer measure impressions. But basically, impressions and views are different things. Impressions mean, let's say that an algorithm has decided that you'd be interested in something, then they put that something on your feed. So that means, you have an opportunity to see it. It doesn't mean that you've actively clicked on it. And so that's why it's a little bit of, it's a little bit gray. But when you put that 600 million in the context of other things, we used to look at what it was worth in like advertising value, and like 600 million impressions was worth, I don't know, like $100,000 or something. I mean, it's really like a valuable key. But we don't really measure impressions that much now because we don't do Twitter, and you just don't get the same kind of thing. But we still like talking about it because it's like, we're really proud of it. I hope that helps.
There's a couple of other, here's one. I've often heard that we don't want to try to persuade the MAGA true believer. It's not worth it. I'm a newbie here. So who is our target audience? Who is our target reader then? If you want to save your voice, I'll take a stab at this one. I certainly understand that, there are some people who are, maybe unpersuadable, and sadly, those people may be within your own family and that sort of thing. But basically, the target audience is anyone that you are having a conversation with, if it's in real life, or anyone that may be receiving the message, if it's a letter to the editor or a Substack article, or if it's a social media post. Sometimes we don't know who the target audience is, because we're just trying to use the framework and use the persuasive messaging, find the common ground, the common values, disrupt the disinformation and that sort of thing. So really the target audience is whoever could hear the message or might hear the message. And there's another one that's sort of similar to that. And I get not clicking or commenting on disinformation posts. What about engaging with MAGA people who are spreading disinformation on posts from elected officials or journalists or activists? The comments on governor or senator's social media posts often are mean and full of lies. I can give you a practical example of this. Our attorney general during the pandemic put out a public service announcement post, and they forgot to turn the comments off. And it was filled, the comments ended up filled with lies and conspiracies and things like that. For me personally, I found their information officer and contacted the information officer's office, if you will, and asked them, pleaded with them to turn off the comments. Don't be afraid to reach out to these people's offices if they leave the comments on, and the comment section becomes totally counterproductive. That's one tool. Rather than trying to do the work of the moderators for them and arguing with the folks within the comment sections on politicians' posts, ask them to do their work. Probably coming up on quarter till, Jody.
I'm answering a few questions. Are you guys seeing the answers that I'm writing into the question and answer for the folks who are, what was that? A buck. Anyway, are you guys okay, good. Thanks, Julia, for saying that. I don't mind taking another question or two. I can see a lot of people are asking how you sign up and how do you know if you've signed up. You get Friday emails if you're signed up, and again, you'll get the follow-up email probably late tomorrow because it takes some time to put all those links together. And everything that we've talked about is just one form, and you're there. There's a form for ambassadors, and there's a form for the AMP teams. And anybody saying anything else that's kind of coming up consistently?
Yeah, I felt I don't know about consistently, but this question is pretty heartfelt. This person says, I understand these methods and do believe that they are effective for helping one person at a time, but I just don't know if I have the patience to deal with these people in this way. I have a child who is non-binary and one child who is a lesbian, and these people would rather see my children dead than anything else on the planet, other than maybe Trump being made world dictator. So I think the question is about when there are deeply emotional issues, when people are deeply and emotionally tied to a disinformation issue, how do they proceed using the truth sandwich message? And what advice would you offer?
Well, I would love to take that question because, first of all, Kim, thank you for pulling it, and whoever wrote it, thanks for writing it. It touches my heart so much because I have so many friends in the same situation who are just, they're just, beside themselves with worry for their kids. And what I would answer in a couple of ways. One is there's two ways you can think about this project. One is that it's a project that is trying to scale and trying to get a lot of people to think differently. And the places you can scale are places like writing letters to the editor and on social media. And for our conversation team, what they're trying to do eventually is to like table at events and then be able to build up more conversations. So that's one piece of it. But the other piece of it is that it is very individual, and that it's not, we would never expect you to talk with someone who is going to hurt you in any way, even if it's just painful to even have that conversation, because that does no good to anybody. It does a lot of good when you have a conversation with someone who is somewhat, who's maybe just doesn't quite understand. And if you're in a situation where it's kind of happened upon you, maybe you're at a soccer game and the person next to you is saying, some ignorant things, not vitriolic, right? Not entrenched, but just saying things like, something about the school bathrooms and how they think that having, unisex bathrooms is somehow harmful to kids. I don't know what it would be. In that situation, if you're comfortable, then you can start a conversation, something like, gosh, it sounds like, again, that simple conversation. It sounds like you're really concerned about your kids and, making sure that they're safe at school. And I am too. And then the person might join in and say, yeah, I am really concerned about that. And then you can just ask a question like, I'm really curious about how you came to this view that having unisex bathrooms could be harmful. Could you tell me more about that? And you don't have to expose yourself. Like, you don't have to say, well, I have children who are at risk, because that, that might put a seriousness on the conversation that will prevent the relationship building. But if all that happens in that conversation is that the person starts to think about, well, here's where I heard it, and they start thinking about it, you may end the conversation there, but you've done some good because you've made somebody think. So, sorry, I get on a soapbox a little bit, but it really gets me. So, I hope that helped. I didn't see who asked the question.
It was an anonymous question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I hope that was helpful. But again, never be afraid to walk away. We're not here to have anybody put themselves at risk in any way. And I think, I think we're good. Kim and Adrian, I think so.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all 127 of you for staying on. Really appreciate you. And have a lovely evening. Bye all.